Imagine the year is 1400. You're sitting inside your home after sunset. Slowly, the last bit of daylight disappears. And then comes darkness so complete it almost feels alive. Not the kind of darkness we know today. Not a blackout. Not a dark street. This is absolute darkness. Thick, suffocating blackness. The kind that makes you feel trapped inside a cave. And between you and that darkness stands only one thing. A tiny flickering flame. But that flame doesn't smell pleasant. It doesn't smell like vanilla, cinnamon, or sandalwood. It smells like burnt animal fat. Because for most of human history that was light. Boiled cattle grease. Rendered sheep fat. The same greasy substance left behind in a cooking pan after roasting meat. For thousands of years human beings lit their homes with burning animal fat. And it was expensive. In medieval England, the average working family spent close to 10% of their yearly income just on candles. Think about that. More money went into light than medicine. More than clothing. Because without light, life stopped after sunset. You couldn't work. You couldn't read. You couldn't even safely move around your own house. I'm Aidan Thomas from Hidden History. And tonight, we're uncovering the story of the invention that changed human life after dark forever. This is the history of the candle. For most of human existence, humanity lived by one simple rule. When the sun disappeared, so did productivity. For hundreds of thousands of years, night meant limitation. People tried to fight the darkness. Fire pits helped. Torches existed. Oil lamps offered some relief. But all of them came with problems. They smoked heavily. They were dangerous. And maintaining them was expensive. The candle changed everything, but not overnight. The earliest known candles appeared in ancient Egypt around 3000 BC. But these weren't candles the way we imagine them now. They were called rushlights. Imagine dried reeds soaked in melted animal fat. One end was lit while the other was held by hand or leaned against a wall. No wax. No proper wick. No holder. Just a greasy stick of burning grass. And hope. Later the Romans improved the idea. They created true wick candles using rolled papyrus coated in tallow or beeswax. Roman homes used them. Soldiers carried them during travel and war. And already society's class divide could be seen through candlelight. Beeswax candles burned bright and clean with a soft honey scent. The wealthy used them in temples, palaces, and rich homes. Meanwhile, ordinary people relied on tallow candles, made from sheep or cattle fat. And honestly, they were terrible. They smoked constantly. They dripped everywhere. And they smelled like spoiled meat cooking over a fire. Yet for the next 1,000 years, they remained the primary source of artificial light for most of Europe. By the Middle Ages, candle making had become one of Europe's most important industries. Entire towns depended on it. Candle makers were known as chandlers, and there were two major groups, tallow chandlers and wax chandlers. And the rivalry between them became intense. In London, the guilds fought for generations over who could sell candles in certain districts, who had rights to specific customers, and who controlled important buildings. Because candles weren't just household items. They were power. They were money. Beeswax candles became symbols of wealth and purity. Churches used them during ceremonies. Nobles displayed them proudly inside their homes. Tallow candles, on the other hand, belonged to everyone else. Laborers, farmers, workers, the poor majority of medieval society. But tallow candles had another problem besides the smell. They burned unevenly. The wick often bent sideways, creating a buildup of carbon called a candle snuff. The flame would dim, smoke would fill the room, and someone constantly had to trim the wick to keep it usable. In wealthy homes, this became an actual full-time job. A servant's only responsibility was maintaining candles throughout the evening. And at the time, nobody considered this strange. Now pause for a moment and truly imagine this world. Picture an entire house glowing with burning animal grease every single night. Every winter. For your entire life. Modern people would probably find the smell unbearable. But medieval families were used to it from birth. Historians believe rich homes could actually be identified by scent alone. Before seeing the house, your nose could tell whether wealthy people lived there. Simply from the cleaner smell of beeswax. Then came the 18th century. And suddenly candles began to evolve. Whalers discovered something unusual inside the heads of sperm whales. A waxy substance called spermaceti. Unlike tallow, spermaceti burned brighter, cleaner, and with almost no smell. No thick smoke. No greasy dripping. For the first time in history, high-quality candles could be produced on a larger scale. Demand exploded. By the late 1700s, American whalers were producing tens of thousands of spermaceti candles every year. New Bedford, Massachusetts became one of the candle capitals of the world. Entire fortunes were built on whale oil. But there was a problem. The whales were disappearing. As sperm whale populations collapsed from overhunting, whaling ships had to travel farther into dangerous waters for fewer and fewer catches. The world's cleanest candle source was destroying the very creatures that made it possible. Then in 1811, a French chemist named Michel-Eugène Chevreul made a breakthrough. He discovered how to separate fatty acids from animal fat. One of those acids, stearic acid, burned harder, cleaner, and slower than ordinary tallow. Within a few decades, stearin candles began appearing across Europe. And suddenly candlelight changed. No more thick smoke. No more foul odor. No more endless wick trimming. These candles burned almost like beeswax, but cost far less. And here's the part history rarely talks about. The factories producing these new candles were largely staffed by women. Working-class women who once labored in dirty tallow workshops now operated cleaner, more advanced production lines. Many became highly skilled technicians. They improved molds, refined formulas, and perfected manufacturing techniques. The modern candle industry was shaped heavily by women whose names history barely remembers. Then came one of the most fascinating moments in scientific history. In 1848, a scientist stood before a crowd of young students in London and said, "There is no better doorway into natural philosophy than the study of a candle." That scientist was Michael Faraday, one of the greatest scientific minds in history. The man who pioneered electromagnetism chose a candle flame to explain science itself. His famous lecture series, The Chemical History of a Candle, became legendary. Using a simple flame, Faraday explained combustion, chemistry, heat transfer, and capillary action. Because a candle flame is far more complicated than it looks. Inside a single flame, nearly 1,800 chemical reactions happen simultaneously. In something most of us now use simply for decoration. Then in 1879, everything changed again. Thomas Edison demonstrated the electric light bulb. And within only a few decades, candles transformed from essential survival tools into optional luxuries. By the early 20th century, electric lighting filled most major cities. The candle industry nearly collapsed. But something unexpected happened. Candles survived. Not because people needed light anymore, but because they still wanted the feeling. The soft movement of flame. The warmth. The atmosphere. Psychologists even have a term for the calming effect of staring into fire. Flame gaze. The same peaceful mental state triggered by ocean waves, rainfall, or rustling trees. The candle didn't disappear after electricity. It evolved. Today, candles generate billions of dollars every year in the United States alone. Despite LED lights, smartphones, and powerful electric systems, people still buy fire. Because candles were never just about visibility. They represented time. In wealthy homes, candles were measured by inches burned per hour. People literally watched time melt away. They represented status. For centuries, the quality of your candles revealed your place in society. And they became scientific tools that helped explain the hidden laws of nature itself. But more than anything else, candles survived because flame connects us to every generation before us. Every human being who ever sat in darkness and pushed it back with a small trembling light. For them it wasn't decoration. It was survival. And maybe that's why even today humanity still can't let candles go. Because deep down somewhere inside us, fire still feels like home.